I haven't watched this Liberal Hivemind video yet. Just saw the headline, the Biden disaster already unfolded. I'm like, oh god, this is gonna be great. Let's figure out what the disaster is and what supposedly Americans don't want.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hivemind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And so Joe Biden is about to be inaugurated. Regardless of what you may think, that's the situation at hand. And sometimes when you play a card game, when you play a game in general, you're dealt a loss, you're dealt a losing hand, a bad hand, and you gotta figure out your way from there. Just because you're losing right now doesn't mean you're gonna lose the game. The saying goes, you might have lost the battle, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you've lost the war. And so for us to cower in defeat or to give up, well, that's never gonna happen, at least not on this channel. And one thing that we will continue to do absolutely over the next 4 years, or probably 1 or 2 years while Joe Biden is in office before he's removed and Kamala Harris is put in, well, we won't expose the abundant hypocrisy of the left as much as we will expose the abundant idiocracy and cognitive disability of Joe Biden. Of course, we know the media won't do it. They'll praise him as if he's the second coming of Jesus. I mean, we know the strongest question he got from the press all election season was, what flavor ice cream is that? He'll be allowed to do whatever he wants with zero scrutiny. And so, of course, what we do on this channel is what the media refuses to do. Call out the Democrats, call out the hypocrisy within Washington on both sides of the aisle, but of course, with a major focus on the Dems. And so that
You've done nothing. Like zero videos. Your channel's Liberal Hivemind. Try to play that you're gonna do two different ones things. Yeah, the actual cult exists, yeah. That you're gonna I lost my track. Gonna call out both sides. Bullshit. You're gonna make up conspiracy theories about the left and and not even like left and liberals and stuff like that is being hypocrites, and you're largely gonna make bullshit up. Like the whole, oh, what flavor ice cream do you like is the toughest question you got. He got plenty of tough questions during this, right? There was the whole during the primaries, the Kamala beat down over like busing and a lot of his comments around integration and things like that that were called out and big. So he got some scrutiny on that stuff there. He just didn't get scrutiny over like bullshit conspiracy theories that you want.
That's what we got to do for this video. Once again, let's analyze Joe Biden and what he plans on doing during his first 100 days of his presidency, with a strong focus on the first 10 days, because Joe Biden is planning an executive order blitz. And in my opinion, this little executive order blitz might entail some of the greatest foreign policy disasters in recent politics. And so we got to cover it, we got to expose it, and we got to, of course, have the receipts to, down the line in a couple years, be able to say, I told you so, once again. And so we got to get into it, folks. We got a lot to cover in this video, a lot of policy, and so we're going to get into it. But before we do, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible, and make sure that you have notifications on, since we are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. Now with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. All right.
So, if this does go up on YouTube and you made it this far, do that for my channel. Fuck Liberal Hivemind.
Alright guys, so here's the report that Joe Biden is planning on going on a 10-day executive order blitz. Biden readying legislative executive blitz in administration's first 10 days. And we're already getting a great idea of exactly what he plans on doing. Of course, we know what he promised during the election cycle, that he's basically going to try to undo everything good that the president did, just because, of course, orange man bad, and everything he did must be reversed because reasons. But just,
well, it's got to be reversed because things Trump did were bad. Right? So we gotta fix that shit.
Things that Biden plans on doing, it's the literal opposite, the antithesis of America first. And I guess the way we could characterize it is America's stupid, or at least he thinks Americans are stupid. What kind of policy is this? Report, Biden team to migrant caravan. Don't come, you won't get in, yet. And that's a paraphrasing, but that's essentially what they said. Here's the actual quote. The situation at the border isn't going to be transformed.
All right, where is that from? What would that say? Let me get that right so I can get the right headline. I think this is from Breitbart. I think that's how they do their headlines. Which, I mean, is not a source you want to go to for news. Not seeing it. Yeah, that's a Breitbart article. Yep. Oh. Not the reliable
They
source
said,
you want to
here's
go
the
to.
actual quote: "The situation at the border isn't going to be transformed overnight, and so they say now is not the time to make the journey," alluding to the fact that don't come in just yet, we're going to change the situation, and then make your way over to illegally migrate into the country, and we'll make sure amnesty is provided. Once again, we've covered this extensively multiple different times. This is what corporate interests want, because what do they want? They want the exact same situation that you see in China: low-skilled, near slave wage labor in order to compete when it comes to manufacturing and production. They don't want to give Americans jobs. They want extremely cheap labor so they can increase their profit margins and make more billions upon billions of dollars. Why do you think there are so many Chinese billionaires? Why do you think China has some of the greatest wealth disparity across the entire world? Because the few who control the markets and industry barely have to pay anything in input costs. The production is so incredibly cheap, and they're selling at ridiculously high profit margins and making an absurd amount of money, where Americans have to pay fair wages, they have to deal with real regulation, they have to pay insurance, etc., but the corporate elites, in their quest for never-ending profits, want cheaper labor. You Democrats are getting swindled.
So, I don't know the total number of billionaires in China, but if they have more than the U.S., that might could just go down to them being, what is they're almost, they're 4.5, maybe almost 5 times the number of people there. So just based on the numbers alone, you'd expect more billionaires. Now, I don't know how their inequality works relative to ours. I'd have to go look at that data. But no, the people that come over here to work are working jobs that Americans just aren't going to work, right? There was what state was it? You might know, Beast Nation. That was it Georgia or was it Alabama, something like that, where they outlawed completely illegal immigrant workers and stuff like that, and basically told them to go away. And what happened is they had to go and reverse that, like, shortly after, and say, well, come back. We need you to do these jobs that these other people aren't doing. Right? So this is immigration is not a bad thing, like, at all. Into doing that stuff. Maybe some sectors marginally it depresses wages a little bit, but in general it increases a whole bunch of stuff for all of us. So immigration is largely a good thing. This is agreed across the board, left, right. Doesn't matter.
By Joe Biden and his corporate crony friends. But let's get off that one because we've covered it a million different times. Check out this one, which is probably going to be one of Biden's many foreign policy disaster decisions. Report: Biden team already in talks with Iran over return to nuclear deal. The Biden administration,
that is a good thing.
administration has already unrolled its plan to return to the 2015 nuclear deal and has begun holding quiet talks with Iran, an Israeli TV station reported Saturday. The Biden administration plans to bend over for the Iranian dictatorship that seeks to destroy the United States of America. We all know that the Obama administration handed them billions of dollars, was soft on them, and entered into this deal that allowed them to inspect their own uranium plants and basically had absolutely no accountability and did.
Okay, so a lot of lies there. Money, that was Iran's money that we froze, right? So that was all their stuff. And a part of the deal, we agreed to give them their money back, right? So that's the billions, right? These are the same type of people that'll argue like taxation is theft, but giving people their money back is, oh, we're just giving them money that they didn't already have. And then the inspection stuff, no, we had outside inspections come in, my dude. Really good things, and Iran was holding up their end of the bargain. And Iran doesn't want to destroy us, right? They don't want to go, they're not stupid to go try to start a war with the U.S. They don't want that. So he's lying about that nonsense there.
Nothing to stop them from enriching uranium. President Trump actually goes hard at them, applies sanctions, pulls out of the deal, which in my opinion should be widely celebrated. And first order of business, Biden plans on playing right into the hands of Iran, and
no, pulling out of the deal allowed Iran to advance closer to nuclear weapons, not the other way around.
assuming he's probably going to lift some of the sanctions on them as well. It's a complete farce. Biden is selling out American interests and American national security for God knows what reason. I'm telling you, with this guy, it's America last. And the Gateway Pundit says the exact same thing. America last. Biden's set to cancel Keystone XL pipeline and ask Congress to offer amnesty to 20 million illegals in first week. Now, the whole amnesty and 20 million illegals, we understand. We just covered the migrant caravan, but that...
So, Gateway Pundit is even worse garbage than Breitbart. So this is true here. The 20 million illegals, I don't know if, unless he's just talking about like the 8-year plan, but like, it's kind of funny. Like the one chud is gonna say, "Oh well, he lied. He went back against his promise. It's 8 years for it, so it's gonna be basically these undocumented immigrants are gonna be here as slave laborers for 8 years." Before they get in there, they're not offering amnesty right away. And then other chuds are like, no, they're offering amnesty the first week. So largely this amnesty thing must be the path to citizenship, the 8-year thing. And not, all right, right away, you're all citizens. Yep. It's all wrong. It's all lies.
The first part is something that I think most Americans aren't even really paying attention to. I mean, we already know that Biden promised to end fracking on multiple occasions, and it seems that most people have memory hold that. But now he's talking about canceling the Keystone.
So no, he supported ending fracking on, no new fracking on federal grounds. Fracking is not, if it's properly regulated, can be part of the solution to reducing carbon emissions and helping to curb the effects of climate change in the short term, right? Eventually we would have to replace it. But we don't have the nuclear plants right now. We haven't made the battery technology breakthrough necessary to prevent like intermittency with solar and wind. So we still need either nuclear or some form of fossil fuels. And one of the quickest ways we can reduce our current emissions if we get the fuck off of coal, which is where fracking helps. If we go and convert our coal-powered power plants into natural gas powered power plants, we will reduce it by like half. I want to say, I think if I remember correctly, is the number. But we would reduce our emissions by half if we had a mass scale doing there. So that's where fracking would be important in the short term, because we don't have the nuclear infrastructure to switch over to that. And nuclear plants take anywhere from 7 to 10 years, right? And they're over $1 billion, right? To get one up and running. Now, once they're up and running, they provide real good, cost efficient and all that other stuff, but it's the upfront costs and the time to get to it. So, part of your plan would be to convert coal power plants into natural gas power plants, right? And so if you follow anything, we're at like 40-year lows in terms of coal usage, despite our population being, twice as big maybe as it was 40 years ago. Maybe not quite twice as big, but we're at those lows. But I think it's still like 85-90% of our energy industry is still powered by coal, which is where fracking would be good and would be a short-term goal until you get the nuclear infrastructure up and in place.
XL pipeline. For those of you that aren't aware of what the Keystone pipeline is, it's a pipeline between Canada and the US in order to facilitate oil being manufactured from the north and crossing over into the US. And leftist activists and environmentalists in both countries, the US and Canada, have been doing everything that they possibly can to stop the pipeline because allegedly tar sand oils are bad. But how monumentally incompetent are these activists? And the worst part about it is that Justin Trudeau and Obama have been essentially halting the Keystone pipeline from going forward for years. What do we bet?
No, Obama has allowed the Keystone pipeline to go, right? And you know what? The Keystone pipeline in itself, I think is not as big of an issue as environmentalists like to make it out to be, right? So part of the like Standing Rock and all that other stuff is the Keystone pipeline was putting in a new pipeline replacing an older worn out pipeline, right? And it was largely agreed to by the native leaders and stuff here, and I think in like majority vote and said we're in favor of it. So like the Keystone pipeline isn't as big of an issue as environmentalists make it out to be, and pulling its permit or whatever is, not the biggest deal in the world. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you said that. He's not quite Mr. Obvious. Like if you watch a Mr. Obvious video, Mr. Obvious lives in a 100% completely different reality than what we live here. This is basically him just saying, well, oh, this is bad because it's something the liberals want to do, and that's about it. Still no hypocrisy though.
Benefit. The US and Canada both being countries that are very low in terms of emissions on the global stage, with emission counts that continue to drop and go down and down and down as countries try to become more green. Not to mention, the oil that is being produced in Canada and in the US is done ethically and pushed within a trajectory to produce less carbon emissions, yet bozo politicians, Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau basically, are planning to cancel the Keystone XL. What does that do? Well, it's a very simple answer.
So, I don't know about Canada, but here in the US, we are not the lowest. Like, we are one of the biggest polluters, right? China and India are kind of up there as they're bringing more and more of their populations onto the grid, right? You got two nations over 1 billion people. I think China's almost 1.5 billion. They're bringing more people on the grid. China, India, I don't know. I don't know exactly their numbers off the top of my head. I don't have those memorized, but China has been leveling off, even though they're adding tens of millions of people onto the grid each year. Their emissions have been leveling off, and so hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years, we start seeing that decrease that's necessary to combat climate change. The U.S. is still declining, even under Trump. Mr. Obvious. But it's still declining under Trump, but it's not anything that Trump's done, right? It's just part of larger trends, largely because of policies put in place by Obama that just kind of continue through, even though Trump has rolled those back. They don't get rolled back. He didn't roll them back fast enough to where it, adversely affected the down. It slowed it, so we're not going as quite as the decrease as we were before. But so some of like the big things, if you remember, going away from fluorescent light bulbs, that was Obama's terms, right? So going to energy efficient light bulbs, or you had the Energy Star rating stuff that came into play. That's on all of our electronics now that we accept. Remember all that in 2008 to 2011 or so, right about there, all the hubbub about, I don't want to give up my fluorescent light bulbs, or not fluorescent, incandescent light bulbs, to go to these fluorescent light bulbs that are more energy efficient. Right.
It makes Canada and the US more reliant on Saudi Arabian oil and foreign oil in general, which is harvested and refined in a less regulated sense with near slave labor, and is making oil barons and oil princes monumentally rich across the globe.
So stopping the Keystone XL pipeline is not going to affect how much we buy from Saudi Arabia. We're actually, because of the fracking boom, net exporters to the world at large in terms of oil. That's why gas prices are so fucking low now compared to what they were 6-7 years ago, right? During the height of the recession. Oh, all right.
Some cases, which is funding terrorism. This is the most moronic foreign policy decision I've ever seen in my entire life. This is virtue signaling to the woke left, while once again selling your country's soul to foreign interest that doesn't have your best interest at heart. It's diabolical, and it's killing American jobs. It's making everything more expensive and making you less safe. And keep in mind the stark contrast that President Trump is the first president in modern history to put America in a state where they are not reliant on foreign oil, which has brought the oil prices lower, which has made energy cheaper. And by the
So no, Trump is not responsible for any of that, right? That's Obama, and largely the fracking boom, right, is what's responsible for the amount of oil that we do. Nothing to do with Trump.
By the way, he did all of that without increasing carbon emissions. Go figure. The leftist activists will continue to focus within America bad, America bad, America bad, while letting the world get away with human rights catastrophes across the globe and destroy the environment with absolute impunity. It's a complete farce. And these far left activists voted for Joe Biden, who's the exact man allowing all of that to continue. They voted for big bank Joe Biden. Biden names ex-Goldman Sachs banker turned Wall Street foe Gary Gensler to head sec. You voted for Goldman Sachs. You voted for carbon emissions across the globe. You voted for China. You voted for Iran to continue their war on America and to build bombs which directly threatens Israel and their sovereignty. Although that one I'm sure liberals are happy about, considering
So none of this is true. This is all lies.
The most recent rhetoric that we've seen from some of the more extreme elements of their party. But you got swindled and you voted for an empty shell of a man who was controlled by these corporate interests. I mean, you voted for this guy.
I'm taking this beyond what we're supposed to do. See you.
Okay.
Come on.
A man who looks so lost, so confused, almost like a confused puppy who lost its owner. Who even voted for this guy? And I'm asking that seriously, who voted for this guy? He held this event on YouTube.
Yeah, he doesn't actually care for carbon emissions. It's just an attempt at a gotcha.
Called America United, an inauguration welcome event celebrating America's changemakers. After 3 hours of streaming, it had 25,000 views. If I uploaded a video and it only got 24,000 views after 3 hours, I'd be freaking out. This is supposedly the most popular president in American history. Meanwhile, on the same day, Donald Trump releases a statement and it got over 800,000 views while it was playing in the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes. 800,000 people watching live. Who voted for this guy? I don't know, but seemingly the powers that be, the corporate interests that control him, got him across the finish line, and I'd say that is an objective truth. And the direction of his policy, the direction of his executive orders, and what he plans on doing, everything that's being unveiled, the cabinet members that he's picking, are testament to that exact notion. But that's the video that I got for you guys on this one. I want to thank you for watching. Now I gotta get back to work, so I'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, a bunch of lies, bunch of garbage.